Welcome to another Freedom Day. This is where every other Thursday we get together and we do some basic free coaching, right? And we want to bring tremendous value to you guys. If this is your first time logging in, my name is David Adam Kurz. I own a coaching company called the Freedom Organization. I'm also a real estate agent and I'm also a partner at a title company. And so we're based out of Florida, but my title company is expanding in Texas. So we're having a lot of fun, a lot of movement, busy guy. And yet every other Thursday, I take time and I do this with you guys because I love bringing value to the market. I love bringing value to people. Plus, I love connecting with people, right? I want you to think about me when you need to learn something, and I want to think about you when I need to sell something in your area, right? So, um, getting together, something that I've always done and I've been very proud of myself of doing for, I would say, probably the last 7 to 10 years is I've really learned how to step out of my bubble. And what I mean by that is that I've really learned how to leave Miami. Miami's my market. It's my real estate market. It's where I run my team and we sell real estate in. But I've really taken advantage of going to other places in the country and meeting other people. I've really taken advantage of this crazy thing we call social media and in connecting, truly having meaningful connections with people around the country. And what I feel has happened over those last 7 to 10 years is I've been able to educate myself through other people and other mentalities in other markets, right? I felt like the longer I was stuck inside of the bubble of Miami, and this is true for wherever you live, whether it's Montana, New York City, San Diego, California, wherever you are, if you don't break out of that bubble, you're only going to understand the personality and persona of how business is done in your backyard. And I also feel like when you step out, you learn things that you can bring back and make adjustments that no one else is going to make. And so I tell you the story because one of the things that I have been uh, uh, very grateful for is my relationship with Travis. So Travis Winfield's on here with me today. And so Travis, I live in Miami, Florida. Travis lives in San Diego, California. And we connected on social media years ago, and we've remained friends and colleagues and confidants since then. We call each other for things, call each other for advice, call each other for businesses, we call each other for opportunities. I just think that we've developed a great opportunity for a very long time. And because we've been able to do that, I'm able to now call on Travis and say, hey, I'd like to bring your expertise. And not because I couldn't teach the subject, but because it's always better to hear another voice, right? So some of you come in here every other Thursday and you hear me and you hear me and you hear me, and maybe you're on my YouTube, you're watching my videos, maybe you're a member of my Freedom Achiever Academy and you're studying my material. But Travis is a retired Navy person. I served in the Marine Corps for 9 years. We have that commonality, right? And I have a passion, and I'm going to say this, I have a passion for helping military families move. I have a passion for helping military families learn about their benefits and help them into homes. If I have a passion, Travis has an obsession, okay? Travis is next level my passion, right? Like Travis has taken the love and the appreciation for the military to levels that I never would have thought of taking it for so many reasons. And so Travis started a group called M.O.R.E, which is military operated real estate. You see the name right behind him on the wall. And I brought him here today because I wanted him to spend some time with us talking about, and it'll be him and I having a conversation. We're going to use this board here. He's got a great presentation that I know you guys can see. We're going to use the board as a guide. So don't worry if you can't really see the board full speed ahead. I'll bring it a little closer so you can see it a little bit better. But ideally, the goal here is to give you guys enough ammunition to understand the good, the bad, the ugly, and the benefits of working with military families. This is equivalent to what I think we'll talk about not only veterans, but active duty military folks moving around, right? And we'll talk about the differences between the two and the difference in benefits between the two. And so, Travis, I give this super long-winded like welcome to you coming on board. Thank you for doing this with me today.
Of course, brother. I appreciate you having me, man. And I echo what you said, man. We kicked things off a long time ago. This is my bread and butter, guys. So I not only do I have military operated real estate, which is basically a broker agnostic. We're building a broker agnostic training company for veteran real estate agents, military affiliate agents. I also own a top producing real estate team called the Winfield Group, based here in Southern California. So I'm out of San Diego, and we do between 100 to 150 transactions a year here in Southern California. So we have built proven processes in just in real estate, but I've added the additional layer of becoming an absolute specialist with serving veterans. And so the reason why I'm so passionate about doing this and teaching you guys, let me ask, can you raise your hand or press the little raise your hand button if you are a military affiliated agent, meaning you're either a veteran or have lived the military life by being a spouse or a dependent, like a military brat? Is there anybody in the room that has that background at all? All right, there's one. So Christine, I saw, and then
Dude,
Nadine,
Nadine.
uh, Renee. Awesome. So guys, like this is important to understand. So first off, for you guys, thank you for what you've done and your sacrifice, because so many people don't recognize the fact that the military families sacrifice just as much as the veteran themselves because they're holding down the home front. They're the ones that had to actually make a move, like, and move the entire family while maybe your spouse is deployed on the other side of the world, fighting for our country. So just thank you for that as well, guys. So what I want to do is really dive in with David and we're going to talk through it. And I want to give you actionable stuff to level up your game. So for those of you who are not military affiliated, like I want to arm you with information, because just because there may not, I mean, we all agree that all of you have worked with some kind of veteran in the past. So I want to arm you with information so you can better serve them, because that's my ultimate mission. You know, if we're talking about, and we all know we got into this business to help people with probably one of the largest financial decisions of their life. Well, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, for a veteran who joins the military, they don't do it to get rich. So what we want to do is be able to arm you guys with information so you can provide the absolute best level of service to that veteran. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk through some different strategies that and arm you with knowledge so you can better serve your veteran clients. Is that fair? All right,
Dude.
cool, man. All right, let's rock it, man. So, David, we'll go to the first slide. Let's keep going, man.
All right, so here we've got why military families deserve specialized representation.
Well, that's pretty obvious, right? So, when it comes to this, you know, when you're talking to military family members, why is it so important? What's different? Like, so if anybody's gone through the military relocation professional certification, they do basic stuff, right? So obviously here, so when you're talking about military members, you got to understand that if you have a military member PCS in one state duty station another, you got to take in consideration the fact that they may not be able to be accessible when you want them to be accessible, because they're working on base and they got to leave their phone in a locked up locker while they work all day. And you're all frustrated as the agent because they're not answering their call. Well, you got to be sympathetic to that. You also got to understand that sometimes the military doesn't give a veteran or an active duty member much time. I remember getting orders to go overseas and got 4 days notice. All right. So this stuff does happen. So you got to, if you're going to represent military members, know that things move fast. They have strict timelines, and you got to understand what works around that. And if you can do that, you're going to learn that also the military, they trust, they're very loyal, right? So if you can really get into them and build that trust, they're going to be clients for life. Understand too, there's lots of benefits, and we're going to go into more benefits that are specialized to veterans. So we need to make sure that you guys know what those benefits are, because believe it or not, even the military member and the veterans don't even know what these benefits are. There's so many benefits out there, but there's not a marketing budget to tell them they exist, right? And so by having the specialized knowledge, it's going to really allow you to go take your business when serving them to the next level. So let's go to the next one, man. Let me ask you this, David. Do you agree with this from your experience?
Yeah, 100%. Look, we moved around. It's funny because I think that because I served so long in the military that I have a hard time staying in any home for more than 2 or 3 years, right? Like honest to God, I've been out longer than I was in, and I don't think I've lived anywhere for more than 3 years. Now, I have lived in every part of Miami. I've never left Miami after getting out, but
Right.
I've lived in North Miami, Homestead, Central Miami. I've lived in West Miami. I live in West Kendall now. I've lived in South Beach. I've lived in downtown. I live by the
Right.
airport. Like, and I think that also, being in the military, I've had that uneasiness where I feel like, okay, I've been
Right.
here too long. Something's wrong. And so, when you talk about that experience, I get to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm making a move. I'm making a move now. And I have that experience in my head. And so you might run into that same personality even without orders in hand saying you need to hurry up.
Yep, that's true, man. That's true. So let's talk about some basic stuff. So I know for if you're a military, I'm gonna apologize ahead of time because some of this stuff is going to be already second nature to you. But if you hear a military client talk about their PCSing, that means they're doing a permanent change of station. And to what David just said, that's a true point. I did 24 years in the Navy. I never lived in a home more than 3 years. To this day, I have never lived in the same house for the last 20 or almost 30 years. 30 years, I have never lived in that home more than 2 to 3 years. To this day, I have a 25-year-old son and a 19-year-old daughter. They have never lived in the same home more than 2 to 3 years. So that's why, like the military dependent, y'all get accustomed to this lifestyle too. So some common acronyms to pay attention to. So PCS, permanent change of station. ETS is like that's basically like a temporary change of station. That might be where they're transferring to for a couple of months to go to a school. BAH is a basic allowance for housing. The LES is that's basically their it's their document that shows what they're getting paid. So then there's another one you might know is BAS, basic allowance for sustenance. Basically, they get money for food. They actually get other pay as well. Like when they're moving from one duty station to another, they can actually ask for advanced pay. I don't recommend that because all you're doing is stealing from Peter to pay Paul. But they also give you what's called a MIHA, which is a move-in housing allowance. So what I would encourage you to do is just go into chat. Like, what are all the different pay and allowances that a military member has when they're moving from one duty station to another? That way, because if you can speak the language of the military member, you're going to automatically build that trust. But if you don't understand it, then they're going to see right through it. Okay.
Yeah.
So make sure you become that expert on this. Understanding that lingo and speaking the military language goes a long way. It's very simple, guys. A lot of us who've served, you don't know what it's like to serve unless you've served. And so if you haven't served in the military, then you need to do that extra step to get really smart on how we speak. Okay. And then this is a true statement. Like you got to be conscious of the fact that every time a military member moves, believe it or not, 50 to 60% of all PCSs actually cause a service member to go into debt. So because generally the pay they give them doesn't always cover everything they need to make a move. So just be conscious of that as well. I mean, David, did you ever experience that one on any of your moves?
Yeah, we did, man. And I mean, we would try to get every penny we could for some of these moves. But, when they look at you and go, hey, buddy, you're moving from, Aberdeen Proving Grounds, Maryland, to Port Hueneme, California,
Mm-hmm.
and you're a sergeant in the Marine Corps, you can't afford a big moving company and
Yep.
flights for you, your wife, and two babies. And so you end up renting a big truck, trying to save every penny you can. You load up everything by yourself, or with your Marine Corps buddies come help you. But when you get there, you ain't got no Marine Corps buddies yet. So you're unloading a truck with your wife, babies are crying. My AC broke on the mountains coming up before California, pulled into California to like 110-degree weather in LA with no AC and two kids in the car. It was,
Yep.
this is the nightmare that the military lives through. And when they arrive, when I arrived to California, I was pissed. I was frustrated. If my housing hadn't been ready on time, I would have lost it,
Right.
and so being conscious of all the stress that goes into this, and then you're on a timeline. So it's not like I
Yep.
had time, I called U-Haul. U-Haul said, no problem, we'll send you a new truck. You just got to move everything from one truck to the other, And I was like,
Right.
dude, I'm not unpacking this truck to try. I'm just going to suffer, you know? And
It's
so we
true.
suffered through it.
It's true. So again, just being conscious of it. Let me hit the next slide, David. So when it comes to this, now we're going to start getting to our job on how we can help them, right? Now, obviously, now here's a true statistic, and this is a travesty. There's 16.1 million veterans in our country. There's over almost 2 million active duty members in the military, whether it be reserves and active duty. The challenge is only 12% of eligible veterans have ever used their VA home loan benefit. Let that sink in for a second. Only 12% have ever used their benefit. Now, why is that? Well, quite frankly, it's because a lot of them are not fiscally educated enough to build up their finances so they can afford to purchase a home. And that's the reason why, like, the VA home loan benefit is there. So let's talk about some details on what it does give the veteran a little bit of a leg up. So first
Hey,
of all,
can I jump in before you get into that?
yeah,
So, Travis is going to go through the benefits of getting a VA loan. And I want to start this off by saying that the VA loan is the absolute best loan program on the market, period. End of story. It beats conventional, it beats FHA, it beats everything under the sun. Allow me to explain. I bought a $1.15 million house. I paid $8,000 out of pocket. Why? Because I got a 3% credit from the seller and I got 0% down. Basically, I was paying some fees and costs. Okay. Tell me, who do you know puts $8,000 out of pocket and gets $1 million house? Very few people. Okay. Very few people. There's no other loan program you could have pulled that off with. No other loan program. And so the number one and two reason why people do not use their VA loan. Number two, they're uneducated on the VA loan. They don't know what it is, how it operates, what it does. Because let me tell you something. You could serve 100 years in the United States Marine Corps, and when you say you want to leave, they're going to pat you on the back and say, thanks for your service. Nobody's sitting you down going, hey, here's how you could get rich through property, right? Through real estate. Nobody wants you to get rich in the military, because if you get rich in the military, you're out. And they want you in for as long as possible. Okay.
that's right.
Number one reason, real estate agents is the number one reason the VA loan is not being used, because so many real estate agents look at veterans dead in the face and go, it's not a great program. Your appraisal is not going to come in. And that's bullshit.
Thank you.
I'm telling you that right now. And so I'm so glad that you guys are here and you're pulling away as much information as you can. If you run into a veteran, you go, your number one thing to say should be, have you ever used your VA loan? If they say no or yes, doesn't matter, you go, let me connect you with a lender so we can try to get use of it, because you deserve it. And that's the truth.
And that's true, guys. So, and so look, let's just talk about some of the basic stuff, right? We don't have to go nitty gritty, but name a loan product that gives you zero money down. Now, let's be clear. A lot of people have a misconception that the veteran is getting a loan from the Veterans Administration. They are not. All the Veterans Administration is basically co-signing for that veteran. Because we're not getting rich by doing what we're doing, defending our country, they understand that many, many veterans do not have a lot of money to put a down payment. So they're basically co-signing that loan and telling that lender, hey, Mr. Lender, you don't need the 20% down for this veteran. We're going to insure the loan for 25%. And so that's the reason why lenders can actually give a better interest rate, because there's less risk to the lender, because the Veterans Administration is guaranteeing it for 25% of the loan. They're basically guaranteeing a down payment. Now, they're not putting the down payment, so you're still financing the full amount, but you don't have to come up with that down payment cash to put on there. There's also no private mortgage insurance, which we know adds a significant amount of money to that monthly payment. And then people think, oh, well, the rates are too high. Bullshit. They're literally the best rates out there. If you go look at all the different government rates, the VA loan is always going to be the lowest rate available to anybody ever. The other thing that is a big misconception is that, oh, there's too many overlays. It's too challenging. That's also bullshit, because they literally went back to there many, many years ago. There used to be a lot of challenges, but now the overlays that the Veterans Administration puts onto are very low. People say, oh, well, you can't, the veteran can't pay for termite clearance. Yes, they can. If there's a lender that says that you can't, that is a lender overlay. If a lender says they can't do X, Y, and Z, 99% of the time, it's the lender putting an overlay, not the Veterans Administration. So you might have to explore a different lender.
Yes, you got that problem, you reach out to me, I'll put you, I don't care what state you're in. I will
Mhm.
interview lenders and put you with the right one.
Exactly. Another big benefit aside from this is even refinancing, right? Like if you go to refinance a loan normally, man, you got to redo everything. You got to get new appraisals and everything else. Well, the VA actually have what's called an IRRRL, which is an interest rate reduction refinance loan, and it is literally it just basically takes your loan there. It takes like a week to do, and it like takes your loan from your current rate and just drops it down to the current rate. And there's very little cost involved with that because they're not redoing everything. So that's
Now,
another big benefit to be aware of,
now put your hand up if you believe that coming from contribution is more important than putting money in your bank.
right? Absolutely, man, for sure,
Am I here
right?
to help people or am I here to always make money from them? Listen, I am the most utilitarian person you will ever meet in your life. I love money. I have no problem saying that out loud. I think money's great. I think it helps me do a lot of things I want to do, and it helps me help a lot of people that need help. Okay.
Mhm.
But when a veteran comes up to me and says, I'm behind on my mortgage and they have equity in their house, the first thing I'm going to say is, let's see what we can do before you lose your house. Not let's sell your house. Now, the reason that I bring that up, I just learned this a few weeks ago. The Veterans Association has a mortgage modification program in place for veterans that are behind on their mortgage. So if you know a veteran that is behind on their mortgage, right? We help the client go from 2.75% and 6 months behind on their mortgage, go to 2.5% because the VA facilitated it, took all the money, put it on the back end of the loan. They started fresh with a lower payment.
Mhm.
Guys, this is what the benefits of being a veteran are. And we have this
Absolutely.
crazy, awesome opportunity to imply that knowledge on people.
For sure, for sure. Let's go to the next slide, man. And that's where, when it comes to these benefits, the VA appraisal, for example, this is where how many have any of you guys like ever like called to submit an offer on a listing and the listing agent kind of pushes back saying, oh, the seller doesn't want to accept the VA loan because there's too many challenges. They don't want to be stuck with a bad appraisal and all that. Well, this is where getting smart on this stuff, you can educate these guys. Like, for example, I've literally had pushback saying, well, we don't want to do it because we don't want to get locked in on an appraisal. Well, little do they know that the VA loan appraisal actually only connects to the buyer, not the property, unlike an FHA loan. So, for example, if you accept an offer in an FHA loan and it comes in with a low appraisal and you do not want to move forward with your seller, well, then if you drop that buyer to go put it on, you cannot accept another FHA loan because you'll have the same appraisal because it's stuck with the property. Whereas if it's a VA loan appraisal that actually sticks with the buyer for that particular property, it does not stick to the property itself. So that's a benefit to the seller that you can educate that listing agent on. Also, the VA funding fee that gets attached to every loan. If you have any kind of disability rating, as a veteran. So that's why it's important. We'll talk more about the benefits of having a disability rating because it directly affects your home purchase. But they do waive the VA funding fee as well. We'll talk more about that in a second. And then a huge one is government loans. It's not just VAs, it's also FHA, are assumable. But let's talk about that real quick so you can properly educate the veteran. So, yes, you can market a home to say that, hey, this home, you could assume this crazy 2.5% interest rate. But know this with any assumable loan, know that the buyer has to be able to cover the delta between the purchase price and the actual how much is owed on the house
Loan
on the
value.
property, right? So that's a tough one. So you got to make sure that that's even feasible, but you can market to it. But number two, make sure you understand that if a veteran buyer is assuming the loan, then that's great. That's the ideal situation because the VA, the Veterans Administration, can transfer that loan from the veteran to another veteran. But little known fact is you can also transfer it to a civilian buyer. However, it's you got to be make sure that your seller understands that if he does accept an offer for a loan assumption from a non-veteran, then they will lose that entitlement until that buyer either sells or refinances the home out of the VA loan.
So
So
what does
make
this?
sure that's
This
clear.
means every veteran gets something called an entitlement. And an entitlement tells you how much is available to you for use of your VA loan. Okay. Whether
Mm-hmm.
it's the max, half, a percentage, right? I'll explain a couple scenarios so you better understand.
So be clear, there is
But
no limit for the first use of the VA loan. You could buy a $5 million
right,
home, qualify, but
right,
it's just if you lose a certain amount of certificate, there does become a cap involved.
right. And so what happens? I'll give you a couple scenarios. One scenario was that what Travis just talked about. If you allow a civilian to receive this assumption, then what you're doing is you're allowing this civilian to use your VA benefit. And so you will lose your eligibility until they clear it out of that VA loan. They either sell, refinance it, whatever the case is. So you won't be able to use your VA loan again until they get out of it. Okay. Here's another example. I had a client who had to short sale their house and they had a VA loan on that house. The short sale itself put a deficiency on his eligibility. So what that meant was that, let's say it was 500,000, he reduced by 200, now he was only 300,000 eligible. That meant that now he has a cap where if he had the full eligibility, he could have bought a $5 million house, but now he can't. He can only buy up to 300,000 that would be guaranteed by the VA. And
Correct.
so it affected him. So he had a choice. I can pay off my deficiency and buy $1 million house, or I can use a different type of loan, right? And what he decided to do was pay off his deficiency, which was not the full 200,000. It was less than that. It was like $56,000 or something like that. And he paid off the deficiency, and now he had his full entitlement again, and he went and bought $1 million house,
Yeah, that's
right?
awesome, dude.
So these are things that you have to understand. So how do you get this eligibility? Well, every veteran can log into va.gov and they can
Hmm.
pull their eligibility documents, or any lender can request the documents and they'll receive them in 24 hours.
That's
It's all
it.
digital now.
Yeah, but just make sure that you're connecting your clients to a lender that specializes with the VA home loan. Any lender can do a VA loan, but I would encourage you to really dive in and make sure you have a partner lender that actually does know all the ins and outs of it. Because if that lender doesn't, it can really derail the transaction quickly. Let's go to the
Yeah.
next slide, brother.
Yes, sir.
Um, so this is an important one. Now, this one I think is going to blow a lot of people's minds because most people aren't aware of this. So there was a law that was passed about 10 years ago called the Service Member Civil Relief Act. Now, this has a lot of amazing benefits for our veterans. Okay, so first and foremost, a lot of people don't realize that if a veteran, an active duty military member, cannot be forced to hold out a lease if they get orders to anywhere outside 50 miles of his where he currently lives. So if you have a veteran who or an active duty service member who says, "Oh, I can't get out of my lease," and they're trying to move, to buy a home, they can actually use that law to get out of that lease early without any kind of benefits, and they cannot hold his deposit. Same thing with foreclosures. An active duty member cannot be foreclosed on while they're on deployment. All right. So if you have a client that is going behind, know that that client cannot be foreclosed on while they're on deployment. Also, there are interest rates caps. So in other words, if they're on deployment, they cannot raise interest rates because they're late. Everything has to be just kind of everything frozen until they get off deployment. And you guys just make sure you're familiar with all these things. But here's where it really gets powerful. If you have an active duty service member, is everybody familiar with the capital gains exemption that everybody has? If you lived in the home for the last 2 of the last 5 years, you do not have to pay capital gains on your profit for $250,000 per person, right? That's 250,000. If you're married, it's $500,000, right? Everybody knows that one, right? But here's the game changer. While on active duty, you get a 10-year extension of that. So that means that you can buy a home at every duty station every 3 years and have a 13-year decision to sell that home and still not pay capital gains on your profit. Do you know how
No
huge
capital
that is
gains.
for the veteran? I mean, David, wouldn't that be huge for you if you were still on active duty to be able to like literally buy a home and rent it out? And then when you go to sell it like 10 years later, you don't have to pay any taxes on that?
You know what I'm most pissed about? Can we be honest? Is that no one taught this when I was active. If
right?
somebody had taught this when I was active, I would have bought a house at every single duty station that I got stationed at. And when I
Yep.
left, I would have refinanced the house into a different type of loan. And I would have went to my new duty station and got a new house with a VA loan. And I would have rented out the other house to a military family. And I would have did that in every duty station I went to, because by the time I got out, I would have had 6 houses and I would be wealthier than I was when I got out. Let's just put it that way.
Absolutely. You can literally make them a millionaire by the time. And guess who's going to resell those homes? You guys are. All right. Remember, that's the other thing to remember about having a good client, military client base. They move every 2 to 3 years. That means that every 2 to 3 years, you may be getting a new client. But I want to encourage you, don't chase the money. Ask them, do they need to sell? Because if you can give them that, you talk about earning some trust. If you try to talk them out of you making money by selling their house because you think it's a better idea for them to keep it and rent it out and build wealth for the long run, you've just earned a client for life. And although you may not get that sale right now, they're going to refer you like a rock star to 3 to 4 of their other friends, and you're going to quadruple and triple. Because I have a very legit concept I follow. If you chase the money, you're never going to catch it. But if you always put your clients' needs first, the money will follow. I promise you. Last one is, and this is also a huge one. How many of you guys have that cool American Express Platinum card? Isn't this a cool card? What if you were to tell your clients that while on active duty, that they can get this awesome American Express Platinum card where they don't have to be window lickers at the airport. They can go sit in those nice lounges and everything else, and they do not have to pay the $700 a year fee that comes with this credit card.
Did you say window lickers?
That's what we were. Remember back in the day where the
Yeah.
only thing we got at the USO, you go walking by that nice lounge, you're like looking on the windows, you're going by because you can't get
Mhm.
in. Well, now,
USO
guys,
had 3-day-old coffee in it, and you're just grateful for that.
exactly. Exactly. So now you can teach your clients that if they're on active duty, they can get this really nice card and not pay any fees on it. But make sure you teach them how to use it, because you don't want them to end up in $40,000 with credit card debt. Make sure you teach them financial literacy before giving them that advice. Let's go to the next one, man, because this is
Yes,
a huge
sir.
one. So just remember the Service Member Civil Relief Act. Get familiar with it, because that is a lot of great benefits for our veterans. But now let's talk about a little bit more. Let's talk about those veterans who get out of the military and they file for their disability ratings. Make sure that you're convincing your clients to go, if they have not done it, go file for that rating, because this is a huge benefit. Like our service members, they're a prideful bunch of people, man. David, weren't you reluctant to even file for your disability when you got out because you just didn't feel that you earned it?
Well, I'll tell you what happened to me. I got out of the military in 2004, and I went to the VA hospital for some checkups post release. And as I'm walking through the VA hospital, I'm looking at guys with no legs, looking at guys with one leg, missing arm, you know, what I call real veterans in my language, right? Like the guys who gave up a lot, you know? And then you start to think about that and you go, I got 2 legs, I got 2 arms. Who the hell am I to ask for any sort of disability?
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't for many years. It wasn't until 3 years ago that I submitted my first disability request, because guess what?
Who
You
gave you
serve
shit
almost
about that?
yeah, you did. You give you submit you serve a decade in the Marine Corps, and stuff's going to start creeping up on you as you get older and older, and you're going to realize, man, these knees and these hips and this lower back is missing discs, and I still wake up in the middle of the night with nightmares, and I still have this and I still have that, and you never got rid of it, and guess what? You could have been getting help the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
you
Exactly.
know
So that's my thing. Encourage your clients. Ask those tough questions. Hey, have you ever filed for your disability rating? Because once they have a disability rating, there's so many benefits that go with it. Number one, like if you can get them 100%, that's an extra almost, like you hear it, like that's almost $4,000 a month of extra income that they get, that is non-taxable, by the way, that they get for the rest of their lives. All right.
and
And of
and I
course,
want to
there's
I want to tap in on something with this. When they have disability, let's say they are 100% disabled, and the lowest amount that they could receive is 37.85. But if they have dependents, they get more because of the dependents. When they go to apply for a VA loan, the lender is able to put an up on this payment. So they push it up, I think, by 20%. So when they submit this, they don't submit it as 37.85. They submit it as that plus 20%. Why? Because every lender and everybody knows that guaranteed every year the government is going to give them a raise. So over the lifetime of the loan, they're going to receive raises on their monthly disability on an annual basis. And so they're able to qualify for more using this number.
Yep, exactly. And so, and just keep that in mind. Now, some of the benefits, again, every state is different. So I would encourage you, jump on chat. What are all the benefits for a disabled veteran in real estate for your state? And let it rattle it off. California, for example, if you're 100% disabled, you can get $150,000 off your assessed value prior to purchasing the home. So, for example, when the lender is actually working out the payment plans, they can actually adjust the tax base and reduce it by $150,000, and that will actually increase their purchase power a little bit more by that. Also, as I mentioned earlier, the VA funding fee is waived because that is normally 2.5% of the home value tacked on top of it to pay for this program for the first time you use it, and 3.6 for every subsequent use after that. But then there's also other crazy benefits. Imagine if you are talking to your client and you ask them, hey, do you have a disability rating? Oh, yeah, I got one from, I got like 30%. If in California, just use California example, if I tell a client that, well, did you know, I see your beautiful children here. Did you know that if your kids go to a Cal State or University of California school, they pay zero tuition? I've literally had parents break down crying when I taught them this because they had no idea how they were going to pay for their kids to go to college. So don't just talk about real estate. Be that benefit expert. Like California, you don't have to pay vehicle tax on one of your vehicles. You don't have to pay tolls. Again, learn the benefits so you can educate your clients. And this is, again, how you build trust, because you're not just being a one-trick pony, only talking about real estate. You're really focusing on them as a veteran and all the benefits that go with them.
How many of y'all in the state of Florida? Anybody in Florida? So like Florida benefits at 10%, you get a reduction in the assessed value, so you get a reduction in taxes. Unfortunately, the next reduction is at 100%. When you get to 100%, 100% disabled, permanent and total disabled veterans do not pay property taxes. My property taxes are close to $13,000 a year that I do not pay, guys. Okay, huge benefit. All right.
Yeah.
The other part, because I'm 100% disabled, when I go get my license plate for my car, if I get that disabled veteran license plate, it's $20 for the plate and the renewals. $20, and then $12 a year after that. Compare that to what everybody else pays. It's an extreme benefit. And then we also have the school benefits. My daughter is full-time right now at Miami-Dade, and she's transferring to FIU. My daughter gets $1,300 a month right now for her classes.
That's the Dependents Education Assistance Program, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's amazing, bro. That's amazing.
Know the benefits, guys. Know the benefits, because a lot of folks, a lot of veterans will be coming from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And think about this. How many more people could you convince to sell a house? How many more people could you move from one place to another, knowing for a fact that a small, tiny 12%, 12% is using the VA loan? That means that in your city right now, wherever you are, there are however many veterans, and only 12% are using their benefits, and the other ones are not.
16.1 million veterans in our country, not including the active duty component.
Here's another game changer for you. How can you help a veteran build wealth? Let's say you get this veteran, he's single, moves into the city. He's probably going to rent because he's single. He thinks that's the best thing to do. And you go, stop, wait a minute. The VA loan is similar to the FHA loan in the fact that you can purchase up to 4 units, 4 unit complex, quadplex, right? So you get duplex, quadplex, triplex, right? Now, what if you said to this young man or young woman, listen, why don't you buy a fourplex where they will take your VA benefits and they will take the rents from the other 3 units and calculate all of that into your approval process, and then live in one for a couple years and receive rent from the other 3 and have no mortgage? What if I could teach you how to do that?
Mhm.
Okay. And then what if I told you in 2 years you could refinance that property out of the VA loan and you could do it again? And over the next 6 years, you could potentially own 12 units, and then you can go buy the house of your dreams.
Mhm. That's true. And there's so many house hacks out there, David. That's so true. Like, again, you could buy up to a fourplex, as you said, right? And live in one and rent out the others and basically live there rent free. I also teach single military members, instead of buying a 1 bedroom condo, which a lot of them tend to do, I say go buy a 3 or 4 bedroom place and then rent out the other rooms to your shipmates. And then that way you can sit there and now live rent free and they are paying your mortgage for you. Like,
Yep.
come on, there's so many different hacks out there. Let's go to the next slide, man.
There
Um,
it is.
so again, I want to remind people, short closings. People who think the VA loan takes a long time, you get the right lender. I have a lender that can close a VA home loan in 10 days.
Yeah,
So
we did
anybody who
one.
tells you otherwise, like that just goes to show you, if you're dealing with an agent or a lender who are trying to deter your client away from these things, you need to tell them to run, because there's so much misinformation out there. You need to be that beacon of truth. So again, you can get these things closed. Like my lender exactly can actually offer, if he can't close it in 10 days, he'll offer a per diem payment to the seller if he can't close for every day he goes beyond 10 days. That is powerful, right? No, understand that sometimes you can do virtual closings. One of the things that I do, let me see, where do I have one around here? I actually have virtual reality goggles. Oh, here we go. That again, because I cater to the military, I actually have goggles like this that I can send to my clients. I can go do a virtual tour using a 360 camera, send them the link, they slap their phone into these goggles and literally can walk through as if they're actually there. Because again, I cater to this. I've literally sold homes from active duty members in Japan by using this technology. So think outside the box if you really want to focus on the military consumer. Understand their schedules and time zones. Think about all the military. I bought my home in 2009 from Italy. Do you know how challenging it is with a 9-hour time zone difference to buy a home from the other side of the world? So if
Yeah.
you can understand and respect that, you will also earn a lot of trust points with that veteran if you can be conscious of that. I've gotten up in the morning at 3 o'clock in the morning to have a meeting with a client who's buying a home from Japan.
Yeah. And by the way, the technology is amazing and it works for Travis. You know, you don't have to get so techy. So slow. I know somebody's heart like started palpitating. Right? There's FaceTime, there's WhatsApp video, there's
Mhm.
Zoom, all of that works on your phone. I just did a rental with a veteran and his wife. Actually, he's active duty and his wife. They're in Hawaii. And I took him on a tour of this on a couple properties via FaceTime. We just logged in on FaceTime, turn your camera sideways, right? And showed them around the house and explained things as I saw them. They would ask me to go back to other parts and things like that. Fell in love with one of the units and sent the deposit right away, went under contract. Right.
Yeah.
So, just use the technology you have in front of you. We live in a world where it's so readily available.
Absolutely. And again, I show you these guys as just tools for your toolbox. You got to decide what tools are right for you. Let's be real. I've used those goggles, but do I use them for every client? No, I actually, it's just more of kind of a wow factor that I have the technology more than I actually use it, believe it or not. So just keep that in mind. To David's point, use whatever's at your disposal. Sometimes if they're on the other side, you might have to do a walkthrough during the middle of the day because they're sleeping because they're on the other side of the world. So you might have to record it, send it to them, and then kind of play phone tag with them. So all good stuff to be aware of. Understanding sport. I noticed there's some mill spouses here. Lisa, I just want to, I saw you're a mill spouse, and I appreciate your dialogue in the chat. The military spouses are one of the biggest challenges they have is think about this. If you're a military spouse, how hard is it for you to maintain an employment, right? You're raising babies, your spouse is deployed on the other side of the world. How do you sit there and contribute financially? Well, we are really trying to fix that, and we've got some programs that we're working on with M.O.R.E to help solve that in the real estate space. But be conscious of that too, that military spouse might be that person. You got to figure out who's making the decisions. A lot of times, it's not the veteran. They're focused on the war fight. It's the spouse that has to make all these decisions with the relocation. So make sure that you're clarifying who it is that should be making the decisions with the PCS move. Don't just assume it's the veteran. Actually, more often than not, it's going to be the spouse making those decisions. The veteran is really just, all right, can we afford it? Like that's what they're really focused on most of the time. And then they're moving on. So make sure you're paying on that. Focus on the family-centered approach. Focus on how is your family doing? Like get into the weeds. How many kids have they got? Like know them as a family, because when you're in the military and you're a military family, the saying is more true than not that where you lay your head is home. And because you're always moving around. So that family unit actually becomes tighter because that's all you got. You don't get those friends, lifelong friends. You get duty station friends. And generally speaking, you're not living near family where they can help like babysit the kids and stuff like that. So if you could come up with solutions to help that military unit with like childcare, being understanding of the family dynamics, what are challenges they are having inside their family, that goes a long way to establishing trust as well. Knowing the community they're moving into. Don't just focus on the house. They need to know everything. Where are the schools at? What kind of childcare there are? Where is what kind of resources do they have near their house? How far is it away from the base where their spouse is actually moving to? Just focusing on that goes a long way. Get certified, guys. Now, I'm going to be very transparent. I'm not a huge fan of the M.R.P designation, and I'll tell you why. It's because it is designed, it gives you very basic information. If you are a military spouse or a veteran, if you take that course, you're going to probably damn be offended by what you're trying to teach you because it's all common knowledge for what we do. But I will say, if you don't have any kind of military background, it is a good course to take to give you a baseline knowledge, and that's it. But the other reason why I'm not a huge fan of it is because it's misleading to the consumer. Because you could be a brand new agent, never sold a single house in their life, go sit through that course. Now all of a sudden you have a designation to be a military relocation professional, and the consumer thinks, oh, they must be an expert with military relocation, but yet they never sold a home and don't have any kind of military background. So what we're developing at M.O.R.E is we are developing a very robust certification process. But the catch is, that's why I asked who is there. So if you are military affiliated in this group, you can hit me up offline. I'll give you my information because we are building a certification that only military affiliated agents will be able to obtain. And that's called the M.O.R.E Certified Agent, or MCA. But it also goes back to continuing on what we're not going to teach you all that military friendly language because you as a military member already should have that inherently before you even get our certification. Then we're going to take you and really level it up from there. And then we're going to also have different things. Let's go to the next slide, man. All
Sorry,
right.
hold on. Did I do this right? Hold on.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, go back.
Right.
I guess. Yeah. So this is just something. So each PCS has a new trend. So keep that in mind. If you stay front of mind to that client, always do not be transactional with the military client. Like once they close, that should be the beginning of your relationship with them. You should be checking in with them, how they're settling in. I use a gifting program where I literally give customized gifts to my clients in perpetuity for up to 18 months after they close. So I always want them to remember I'm here as a resource for them. I make sure they understand that I am their resource connector. So if they need a contract or anything like that, I want them to come to me, and then I can connect them to vetted people that I can refer them to. And know that every time they move, they're potentially going to be a new client for you again. And then I'm telling you right now, if you really get in with them, they become a client for life, not just for themselves, but for everybody else. Because guess what's happening? Every time somebody's moving, they're like, hey, I'm leaving Miami, for example, coming to San Diego. Who do you know? And they are very good referrals and will be your biggest cheerleaders if you treat them right. And then ask for the referrals. That's really the biggest thing. Let's go to that last slide, man. So great questions just to monitor, and then we can get some questions and dialogue. Ask them, are they active duty, reserves, or a veteran? Ask that way they can know, oh, what's the difference? So if y'all don't understand this, a veteran is somebody who served in the past. So Veterans Day, you don't need to think a active duty member on Veterans Day. That is called Armed Forces Day. So understand the difference between veterans and the active duty component. Have you used your VA home loan before? Because that's an important question to ask them because it affects what their VA funding fee is. Ask them if they have a disability rating because that also affects their loan product and with the lender for what they can get qualified for. Ask them, what is their BAH for the duty station? Guess what? That's public knowledge, guys. So if you really want to impress them, go Google what the BAH is for their pay grade for the area that they're moving to, because then you can be able to help them work through the finances themselves. Do they need a fast closing? Do they need a remote closing? Like I always have to work it out because we all know, right? They're like, oh, well, is it too early to sell my home? Well, no, because or to buy a home early because they're moving from another duty station. So remember this. If you close in 1 month, you don't pay a mortgage payment. You don't pay a mortgage payment the next month. You don't pay a mortgage payment until halfway through the 3rd month after they close. So you can work that into the timeline of them PCSing to your area. And then are they separating soon? Guys, this is so overlooked. If you find out your client is getting out within 12 months, do y'all understand that while on active duty, a lender will not give them a loan if they're within 12 months of separating from the military? So you got to work to ask that important question, because if they are, they're either going to have to get an extension on their active duty time to be able to buy while they're still in active duty, or they're going to have to wait till they get out of the military before they can purchase and have a job that can qualify them on their next income. Don't ask me why. It's a weird thing. I've never quite understood why, you can have a job working at McDonald's and buy a home and you could quit the next week. But yet in the military, it's just because you know that their contract is coming to an end in 12 months, they won't loan to it. But it is a true statement for you to be aware of. So that being said, I hope this was valuable to you. David,
look at this. Look at this handsome son of a gun. Look at that face, man. Look at that Navy handsome son of a gun right there, boy.
Man, that was almost 9 years ago, David. That's how long I retired. I just turned 52 the other day, man. I'm freaking getting old, bro.
By the way, happy birthday. You did just have a birthday a couple days ago. Happy birthday, brother.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you, man. So, all right, guys, just for time, the only stupid question is the one not asked. You got 2 very experienced veterans here. What do you got?
I even wore my special camo hat with my logo on it. You see that?
Right. There you go. I love it. Bueller, are you telling me all these people here, there's not a single question y'all have?
We did that good.
Nothing.
Sorry, this is Taquisha. Where would I find how to take the MCA and the NAR M.O.R.E class?
So are you military affiliated?
My granddad is military.
Okay, so in your case, you would want to go through the M.O.R.E certification, and you can literally go.
Well, he's a veteran. He's not active, so he's a veteran. You just went over that.
True, but I'm just letting you know the MCA certification, you have to either be a veteran or a military spouse or dependent who's lived the military life. So unfortunately, you wouldn't qualify for the MCA certification, but you can do the M.O.R.E certification through the National Association of Realtors. So you literally just Google military relocation professional certification. You can sign up. It's like a 6-hour class, costs like $400 or $500. And that way you can get that designation, because you can now combine, they're going to teach you the baseline understanding of a lot of military terminology, and you couple that with the information we shared with you today, you'll be set up for success to properly represent your veteran clients. Does that make sense?
Hey, Taquisha, I'm going to put the link inside the chat that'll direct you to the NAR page for that.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You got it. What else we got, guys?
Ginger asked, are you offering training for agents who are non-military?
Not for M.O.R.E, unfortunately. I am a very niched business. My company is literally only for military affiliated real estate agents. So,
but don't worry, we keep doing stuff like this because we're both very passionate about it. So we'll keep bringing fire like this to you guys.
Yeah, well, let me plug David for a second. I've known David for years. His coaching program does not have a military requirement, but he is a veteran himself. So you get the best of both worlds with his coaching. You get not only all of his knowledge of all of his successes in real estate, but he is a veteran himself who also knows all of these benefits that I teach inside of M.O.R.E. So he could be a great coaching opportunity if you are non-military affiliated as well.
So I did something and I put inside of the chat, the freedomachieveracademy.com. So that you know, the freedomachieveracademy.com has over 300 coaching and training videos, including stuff like that, building teams, marketing. It's all based on marketing and sales, and it's all hyper focused on the real estate industry. You can self-paced learn. There's a community in there where you can chat with people. So I would suggest that if this is something that interests you, to join that academy, you do it soon. It's May 1st. Our prices are going up. Right now, we're $9 a month. Like, I know, breaking the bank. You might have to give up a Starbucks for this, but $9 a month or $90 for the entire year, which gives you 2 months free. Now, on May 1st, we're going up to $49 a month. And so that's the plan. Then December 1st, we're probably going to be about $99 a month. So, you know, I would suggest that if you want to jump in there and get grandfathered in on the pricing. Someone asked Riley, David. So Riley's trying to be adopted, by the way, just so you know, by a military family. Riley says, David, how can we work out a military relationship for your client closings for New World Title? Hey, we can work that out, Riley. Reach out to me, send me an email. I'll send you a direct message right now with that email address. And that is easy work. We can figure that out. Okay.
Yeah, guys. And I'm going to put my email and my phone number in the chat. I know you put my phone number in there, David, but I'm going to put my email and my phone number in the chat. For those of you guys that are military affiliate, I think I counted like 3 or 4 of you guys, like Lisa. I think I saw one guy in there who's actually a retired veteran themselves. Those guys, if my program's in development, it will not be available till October. But if you are in an area that we need an agent for, because we're going to be launching a pilot cohort program for our first certification this summer. So if you're in an area that we need, hit me up, and that way I can look at adding you to our first cohort to be one of the founding people getting certified with the MCA certification.
Cool. Somebody just asked, let's see. Sandra just asked for the link to the Freedom Achiever Academy. I'll pop it in there one more time.
Love it.
Cool.
Love it.
All
what
right.
else you guys got? No other questions? Gosh, y'all are easy.
We're over 2 minutes, actually. So we're doing good. Thank you, everybody, for jumping in today. Travis, special thanks to you for joining me on this. I really appreciate you. Always
Anytime,
do.
my friend.
Tremendous success. You guys are going to start seeing the name M.O.R.E a lot more. Pun intended.
Love it.
All right, let's go, guys. Y'all have a
Appreciate
fantastic week, and we'll see you guys in a couple weeks.